Gao Tu's life had always been a delicate balance between secrecy and survival. Every day, he hid his true nature, masked his scent, and carefully measured every word, every action, to maintain the illusion of being the perfect beta. But now the truth of his Omega identity, the child growing within him, and the constant threat to his life had turned that balance into a fragile house of cards teetering on the edge of collapse. The pregnancy, a miracle born of love and devotion, had also become a dangerous gamble with death. Each day, Gao Tu felt the growing strain of carrying a child without the stabilizing presence of an alpha mate, and he knew that one wrong move could result in tragedy. The night had been particularly difficult. Pain had gripped him like a vice, radiating across his abdomen, and every movement sent sharp, burning waves through his body. His breath came in shallow gasps, and his hands trembled as he pressed them against the swelling curve of his belly. He whispered to the child, his voice barely audible over the pounding of his own heart. "Hold on. Please hold on. I need you to stay strong." Tears streamed freely down his face, not from weakness, but from the intensity of love and fear that coursed through him. Every flutter of the baby inside was a lifeline, a reminder that he could not give up, no matter how dangerous the path had become. Medical supervision had been a constant struggle. Gao Tu had always been careful to keep his Omega identity secret, and even now, he avoided excessive contact with doctors who might alert the world to his situation. He had relied on his own knowledge, his careful observation of symptoms, and the limited guidance of a trusted physician who understood the risk. The doctor had warned him repeatedly. Carrying a pregnancy without a mate and without alpha support was one of the most dangerous things an Omega could do. Gao Tu had nodded, silent and stoic, but inside, he had trembled. He knew the risk, but he also knew that ending the pregnancy was not an option. The child represented everything he had lived for, everything he had loved in silence for over a decade, and the thought of giving up was unbearable. Isolation became his closest companion. Gao Tu rarely left his small apartment, each step carefully measured, each breath calculated to avoid strain. The world outside was unaware of his delicate condition, unaware that every movement could tip the scales toward disaster. He had grown used to solitude, but now, with the life inside him, the loneliness became heavier, more suffocating. He longed for Wenlang, for guidance, for comfort, but he could not risk revealing the truth to anyone else. Every visitor, every unexpected noise, every moment of distraction could jeopardize his fragile health and that of his unborn child. It was a relentless tension, a battle against time and circumstance that tested his endurance to its limits. One morning, as he attempted to prepare a light meal, a sudden contraction struck him. Pain radiated from his abdomen down to his legs, leaving him gasping and clinging to the counter for support. His body shook violently, and for a moment, he feared the worst. The memory of the doctor's warning haunted him. "You must be careful. One misstep could cost you everything." He dropped to the floor, pressing his hands against his stomach as tears blurred his vision. The child inside wriggled faintly, as if reminding him that life persisted against the odds. Gao Tu's heart ached with both fear and love, a powerful, unyielding force that compelled him to endure even the most excruciating pain. The nights were worse. Pain often struck without warning, leaving Gao Tu curled up on the bed, shivering, gasping, and murmuring to the child. He spoke in hushed tones, recounting memories of Wenlang, whispering promises and expressing his unwavering determination. "I will protect you. I will endure this for you. You are my life, my love, my hope." Exhaustion pressed down on him, but he refused to sleep for fear of ignoring warning signs or missing critical movements of the baby. Every flutter, every subtle motion became a signal, a message from the life he had vowed to protect. He learned to read these signs meticulously, balancing vigilance with the physical limits of his own body. But danger was never far behind. Gao Tu's father had proven himself to be ruthless, willing to manipulate, bribe, and threaten to ensure control over his son's life. The 10 million ultimatum to force an abortion was a stark reminder of the world's cruelty, a reality that added immense pressure to Gao Tu's already fragile state. And then there was the looming question of Wenlang. Though Wenlang had shown concern, had listened with a soft understanding, Gao Tu could not predict the man's next move. Would Wenlang accept the child, support Gao Tu, or retreat into a world of denial and prejudice? Each unanswered question weighed on him like a stone, each moment of uncertainty threatening to fracture his resolve. The physical strain of the pregnancy intensified daily. Weakness became a constant companion. Dizziness struck at unexpected moments, and nausea plagued him relentlessly. Eating was a careful balance. Overeating could bring pain, while undereating threatened both his strength and the child's growth. Gao Tu meticulously planned his meals, hydrated carefully, and rested whenever possible. Even simple actions like walking from the bedroom to the kitchen became exercises in caution and patience. He had learned to pace himself, to read the signals of his own body, and to respond swiftly to any warning sign of distress. Yet despite the fear and pain, Gao Tu's love for Wenlang and his child remained unwavering. He thought constantly of the future, imagining a world where they could all live safely, where his child could grow without fear, and where Wenlang might finally recognize the depth of his devotion. Memories of Wenlang's smiles, his soft words, the moments of unnoticed tenderness, they all became fuel for Gao Tu's determination. Even in the darkest hours, he could envision a future filled with hope, and that vision carried him through waves of agony that would have broken a lesser soul. Night after night, Gao Tu endured. He had moments of despair, moments when fear threatened to overwhelm him entirely. But each time, he pressed his hands against his abdomen, felt the faint heartbeat of the child, and whispered promises of protection and survival. He had chosen this path, fully aware of the risks, fully committed to the life growing inside him, and fully devoted to the man he loved silently for over a decade. Pain, fear, and danger were constant companions, but they could not shake his resolve. Each contraction, each tremor, each flutter of the child became a testament to his courage, his love, and his unyielding will to survive against all odds. And so, Gao Tu persisted. Days blurred into weeks, weeks into months, each filled with quiet struggle, careful observation, and relentless endurance. The child inside him moved and grew, a living reminder that hope could exist even in the most dire circumstances. Gao Tu's determination became unbreakable, a fortress of willpower against the relentless tide of danger. Isolation and physical strain. The pregnancy was dangerous, yes, perhaps almost deadly, but it also revealed the depth of Gao Tu's heart, the intensity of his love, and the strength of his spirit. As the weeks passed, the challenges only grew heavier. Gao Tu had always believed that endurance was enough, that he could shoulder any burden quietly, invisibly, and survive. But now every breath seemed borrowed, every heartbeat a fragile reminder that his body was no longer just his own. The child inside him moved constantly, subtle reminders that life continued, yet each movement brought both comfort and fear. Gao Tu's mind was a battlefield of hope and dread. He wanted nothing more than to cradle the child safely, to watch it grow under his protection. But the reality was brutally unforgiving. Every day was a tightrope walk between life and death, and he felt the precariousness with every muscle, every sinew of his weakening body. Gao Tu's memories of Wenlang haunted him constantly. Every tender smile, every quiet word of concern, every fleeting glance over the years had accumulated into a mountain of longing. He had loved Wenlang in silence, never daring to voice the truth, never daring to claim the man he wanted so desperately. And now, as he carried Wenlang's child, that love had become a weapon and a shield, a force that both sustained and tormented him. How could he face Wenlang if he faltered? How could he reveal the secret if he might not even survive the next day? The questions gnawed at him relentlessly, creating a mental weight that matched the physical strain of his body. One afternoon, as the sun filtered softly through the apartment window, Gao Tu collapsed mid-step. The pain was sudden, sharp, and terrifying. He fell to his knees, clutching his abdomen as his vision blurred. The child inside him stirred, faint and trembling, and Gao Tu's heart clenched with panic. This was no ordinary discomfort. It was a warning, a signal that he might be on the verge of losing everything. Trembling, he crawled to the couch, barely able to lift his body, tears streaming freely. The apartment was quiet, still, as if the world had paused in anticipation of his struggle. He whispered desperately to the child, "Hold on. Please don't leave me. I need you." His voice was raw, hoarse from fear, but it carried the weight of every ounce of love he had ever felt. Hours stretched endlessly as Gao Tu remained collapsed, trembling, every moment a test of willpower. Sleep was impossible, not when each second brought waves of pain and fear. His body was no longer a reliable companion. It betrayed him constantly, each movement, each heartbeat, a reminder of the fragility of life. And yet, even in the depth of despair, he refused to give in. Every flutter, every small shift from the child became a lifeline, a sign that survival was still possible, that hope was still alive. Gao Tu pressed his forehead against his hands, praying silently, willing his body and the child to endure, to persist, to hold on against all odds.